IVM.
Have you ever wondered why women don't do more crime? Well, we're here to tell you. There's misconduct all the time. Women are thieves and murderers.
That's gross misconduct.
Con artists, money launderers.
Criminal misconduct.
Financial fraud that's hard to track.
Takes some planning, but still misconduct.
Even breaching a contract.
Well, that's more civil though.
It's misconduct. Misconduct. We tell you all about women that suck. Things that make you say, what the? It's misconduct.
Hello, and welcome to Misconduct. We are a podcast about Indian women who happen to be criminals. My name is Raghavi.
And I am Nisha. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about Zoya Khan. She's a woman who, against all odds, told the world, I don't care if I fail the Indian Civil Services exam, I will be a public officer. So now, compared to the last two episodes, this one is much lighter. No like murderers or mass coercion or anything like that. Because Zoya Khan was a seasoned con woman who faked being an IFS officer for almost 2 years, duping the Delhi, Gurgaon, Noida, Meerut, and a bunch of other police departments. She pretended to be working with the United Nations on diplomatic missions for India and also the US. How? She got a bunch of freebies from the local police after she'd call and threaten them, of course. This included insane things like security that is only reserved for like top officials, like and maybe reserved for diplomats, and maybe like, I don't know, Kangana Ranaut. I don't know.
Topical. Nicely done.
But eventually she got caught because of her own arrogance. And we're going to get into that.
Aha, hoisted by her own petard. I actually don't know what that idiom means. It just sounded really cool to say right now. But that's not to say that just because she was arrogant, she wasn't well prepared. Because we're not talking about a woman who sort of lucked her way through this today. We're talking about a woman who really went out of her way to make her con work. She made fake email addresses. She bought domain names. She pretended to be her own assistant. She modulated her voice on a recorder like Darth Vader, I guess. Like that's essentially how she did it. And she was eventually caught. Yes, I agree. But that's because she yelled at a police officer, not because of any like actual, misstep in the con itself. And that police officer was like, excuse me, who the hell do you think you are? And of course, he uncovered her secret eventually and had her arrested. So yes, her overall arrogance brought her down. But the con itself was so sweet, so beautifully put together. I know I'm romanticizing it, but that's only because we don't get con women generally very often in these sorts of things. But it's just so beautiful. Chef's kiss.
I find this whole scam quite hilarious. And also, I can't believe she managed to pull it off for like 2 years.
I know. And actually, I can believe it because the kind of work that went into it, and we'll talk about like the kind of work that went into it, was really, really meticulous. And let's sort of just like go through when this happened, what this was like. And a lot of you guys would have missed these sort of stories because this happened sometime early 2009. That's when our story starts. And I personally feel like 2019 was like the last truly happy year I had before everything just sort of went to like shit, I guess. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like it was like the last year I've had that I genuinely feel like I felt some sense of happiness. Do you miss anything about 2019?
Man, okay. I'm not confirming that I did this or anything, but I really miss the ability to just go lick a stranger's face. Like, you can't do that anymore, man. You can't.
Okay.
It's
noted.
I don't know. I just miss the freedom that you had of like going out, not wearing a mask.
The concept of. Not the actual act
No.
Okay. All right. That was genuinely harrowing. No, but yeah, I get it. I kind of get it. Like the fact that freedom doesn't exist anymore. I guess if I was given that option, I would lick a bus stop.
Exactly.
I don't know. So I kind of get it. But that's what 2019 was like for us. It was a whole other time of just like, it's just so peaceful and lovely. But a time around when this story started, and a reason why a lot of you guys would have missed this story when it first like really broke out is because 2019, especially early 2019, the first quarter or so, was a really, really busy time for India. Because, and you would know this, I think through February and March 2019, India and Pakistan were involved in a series of escalating border aggressions. The Pulwama attack being one of them, which killed like 40 Indian soldiers. There was an airstrike after that. There were a series of these extremely random alcohol poisoning incidents across the north, which left some 300 people dead. And if you remember, this is when, I mean, obviously we were in Bangalore, so we remember this, but down south, in early 2019, there was a huge fire that broke out in Bandipur National Park, and like some 11,000 acres of forests was burned in a few days.
Crazy.
And of course, in like that's just few pieces of like things that I remember happening around this time. But the most important thing was the fact that we were all gearing up for the general elections in 2019.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So any other news would just sort of die, even if it was extremely interesting. I caught it because I was just like, hey, I don't care about my local MP. I want to hear about Zoya Khan. And like, I mean, of course, I do care about my local MP, but this was extremely interesting for me to read. And that's the sort of background we are coming with when we think about 2019 and why you guys might have really missed the story, you know?
Yeah, that actually makes sense. I mean, there were so many major developments, and this is just like one small side piece story. So basically, our story of Zoya Khan starts off, I guess, if you want to put it in reverse, on 4th of April 2019. A woman in Noida was arrested for pretending to be an officer with the Indian Foreign Service, or the IFS, for a grand total of like 18 months. She was arrested along with her husband in their home in Noida. Okay, so this is something like super interesting. The first article that I read about her, and it has the most, like, this is my most favorite article in the world. It's one that was published by India Today on the 5th of April, and it's titled, Wo Kaun Thi? Woman poses as IFS officer, enjoys VIP security for 18 months. You know, like, Wo Kaun Thi spelled Wo C-O-N Thi. So like in Hindi, wo kaun thi, like who is she? But then she's also answering the question, kaun.
I got it. Oh, okay. I mean, I get it. You really like the headline, I guess.
It's so clever. I loved whoever it was in India Today who came up with it. Like,
is that the first article you read about her? The Wo Kaun Thi one?
Yes.
I remember reading this. The headline, I mean, I remember the headline, but you're clearly enamored with it, which is not how I felt. That's a very cute pun. I agree. I totally agree.
Basically, like when I was looking up like Zoya Khan and stuff like that, I'm like, Wo Kaun Thi? Yes, 100%. That's the first one I'm clicking. Proper clickbait article it was. But yeah, so Zoya Khan, she posed as an IFS officer for months on end, fooling the government, her security personnel, and even most of the police officers. Like you mentioned, she made fake IDs, fake email addresses. She even bought like domain names to, you know, make it stick. And she lived off of the taxpayer dime the entire time. And eventually she got caught. I mean, I say arrogance, but there's a Tamil word to describe this. And I'm hoping someone can translate this to Hindi and let us know on our, I don't know, Instagram handle. But the word is Adhiga Prasangitaram.
Oh, yeah. It's like, it's basically when you kind of know that everything is really going well for you. And you just take that extra step to be a little bit unnecessarily extra.
Exactly.
You know, with like a misplaced sense of confidence.
Yes.
I think that's what that is. Adhiga Prasangitanam. Yeah, that's fair. If somebody who knows Tamil and also like really gets Hindi can translate this, that'd be really cool. But this is great. I think we have a really cool idea of like what really happened around this time. We did sort of start backwards in that we started with her arrest, but I think that was important because a lot of the story is about how once they arrested her, how the story sort of came out, and we really wanted you guys to experience that like chronology of events as well. But let's take a little break now, and we come back, we'll do some quick context setting for you guys, and we'll run into who she was, what she up to, what is the civil service exams. Let's get through from there.
If you love cricket, listen up. The Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast is here for you. Hosted by DJ, Varun, and me, Ashwin, we bring a fun, fresh fan's point of view to talking all things cricket. Sometimes it's just the three of us, sometimes we have guests, including current and former international cricketers. For new episodes every week, check out the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast on the IVM app, website, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And welcome back after the break, everyone. A little before, we were talking about what was going on in 2019, who Zoya Khan was, a little brief about her. And now you're hoping to sort of do some context setting as to what the circumstances really were around why she did this. And yes, context setting is like the most boring part of the podcast, but just stick with us through it. It is, though, you have to agree. And I get the job every time, so it's whatever, it's fine. But I think one thing that you guys should really, really understand is how the UPSC exams work. These are the exams that will get you into one of the civil services positions of the government of India. And the civil services effectively are like the country's administrative wing, right? So it includes the administrative services, the foreign services, police services. It also has forest, judicial services, legal. This is a chunk of these. And the current Indian civil services institution is really, really old. It was started by the British in the 1850s. And entry through to the civil services happens through the Union Public Services Commission, which is UPSC. Now, there's a lot to explain here. They have an annual exam. It has 3 phases. It's really tough to get through, especially when you get to the interview and personality test. How tough is it? About 1 million candidates write the prelim exams every year, and only 1,000 of them make it through to the interview. So the acceptance rate is about some 0.1%.
I'm not doing that math, but sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. I could Google it again, but I'm pretty sure that's what that was. But it is like really tough. I don't know. I mean, have you ever seen those papers?
It is insane. And I have seen those papers because back in 2013, okay, well, let me say I was planning to apply is a nice way of putting it. I was forced to apply.
Oh, that's worse.
But yeah, and I met actually a bunch of IFS officers IPS officers at that time because they were my father's classmates to talk about this exam. And they were all like, oh, don't worry. If you know 6th and 7th grade history and geography, that's more than enough, which is a lie, my friend. You studied your ass off. Clearly, that's why you're an IPS officer.
Yeah, that sounds like trash.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But yeah.
I did take a look at a bunch of I didn't even attend the exam. I looked at the question papers and I looked at my dad and I said, I'm sorry, I am a disappointment. Please don't make me do this.
No, I mean, yeah, it is quite a bit of work. I totally agree.
Yeah, it is way too much work. And
yeah.
But I get why like people would do this work and really try. One of the major reasons to join the Indian Civil Services is that you're pretty much sorted for life, which is why my dad still recommends it to everyone he meets. Just everyone. Like if you're below the age of 35 and you meet my father, he will say, why don't you write UPSC exam? But because the perks are insane, it includes like 100% job security. Unless you're corrupt and you get caught red-handed,
of course,
engaging in said corruption. And then someone actually feels like taking the time out to prosecute you instead of like just saying, oh, you know what, you take paid suspension and go pa. So
no. That really hurt.
Perks also include like societal status. I've been approached by many suitable gentlemen's relatives who are very excited to tell me that, oh, my somebody is a revenue officer.
And he's also thankfully at least he's 32, ma.
Yeah.
He's a decent age only, good looking boy.
I would have just turned like 22 and they'd be like, oh. So,
it's ripe for the plucking, Nisha. You were ripe. That's what that was.
So yeah, and the salary is also pretty, like, it's great. The lowest pay scale starts from 50,000 to 1 lakh, which is insane. Your residence, transport, security, domestic help, cook, gardener, chauffeur, whatever, everything is taken care of by taxpayer money.
Wow.
Yeah, it's insane lifelong pensions, even after retirement. And working in that department, working in that field gives them a lot of good skills, okay, a lot of administrative skills. So they actually are quite like desirable candidates for management positions in the private sector as well. So you don't even have to retire. You can continue to work as a consultant. And beyond all of this, of course, there is the power trip.
Aha, that's what I was waiting for.
Yep. The Indian Civil Services form some of the most powerful people and positions, I guess, in the entire of India. Just like a bunch of like little kings and queens. So I guess this explains why 1 million people are applying. It's just a ridiculously high number of people who are applying for it every year. And
That's true.
this also explains why some people like Zoya Khan will do whatever they have to get into the civil services.
That's a beautiful segue. That was lovely. I didn't even have to be like, hey, do you want to that was gorgeous. But that's essentially what we're here to talk about. Why Zoya Khan was kind of so obsessed with the idea of being an officer that she would just rather lie about it, you know? I don't really feel particularly upset about it. You just listed out a series of perks that I would always want.
Right.
I mean, I would never say no to my own cook just hanging around and just being like, what do you want me to do for you, ma'am?
That you don't have to pay for.
You don't have to, that's exactly, I don't have to pay for this person. So that's essentially what Zoya Khan really wanted, right? So we don't really know much about her early years. We know that she would have been born around 1984, 1985. And that was sort of, I'm just doing maths based on when she was arrested. We do know she was born in Meerut. We know this information actually from the Noida police station's report that they, not even a report, it was more like a statement that they'd put up on Twitter of all places.
Right, yeah.
So it was in Hindi and I had that translated. So we knew she was born in Meerut. We knew her father was a doctor. We had newspapers also reporting that she may have had a master's degree in political science from the University of Delhi. So at the very least, we can presume that she is not an idiot.
Yeah, that's
so,
true.
And of course she isn't. I mean, just because, so essentially she appeared to have attempted the civil services exams in 2007 and she failed it. But remember, failing that exam specifically does not really say much about your intelligence. It really is, to a huge extent, just really luck and very often being able to memorize certain things. So there's also, like, we don't really know if Zoya applied multiple times because loads of people actually give the exam multiple times. There's sort of an age range in which you can apply and you can give the exams as many times as you'd like within that time period that you have. We don't know if Zoya did this, but she would have likely been around 23, 24 when she didn't clear the exam the first time. So a little after that, well, not a little, like about 7 years later, she met Harsh Pratap Singh. This was 2013 sometime. He was a banker with the State Bank of India and he was the son of a Kanpur-based police officer. Again, we know all this because of the police statement that was put out. In 2017, he also quit his banking job to write the civil services exam. And at that point, suddenly out of nowhere, they just disappeared as those two individual people. They got married at some point and they just became Zoya Khan IFS and husband. And I don't know when that happened because that transition was ridiculously smooth. And it makes, I mean, this obviously makes it very clear that Zoya Khan always wanted to be a civil servant. We're not sure if the perks are what really tempted her or the power, but it's likely both, right? Because they're sort of really connected to each other. I mean, the whole point of power also is, hey, give me free stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I totally understand that.
I think it's very nice and feminist of the husband to be like, you take it forward, Zoya. I will follow you.
Dude, you know what? In the photograph that was taken of the accused along with the police when they arrested them, Zoya Khan is in her burqa and her husband standing next to her. And I don't know if they decided to use this as something in their favor because really, what police officer would be like, prove to me that the photo on this ID is the same as the person behind that burqa? I'm not really sure if they would really make that. I mean, I wouldn't want to be the police officer that ever asked someone this.
No way, no.
I wouldn't want to do that.
That sounds like a bad idea.
It really does. So this was smart. I mean, it was a very simple way of just sort of getting away with sort of hiding your features. And that was kind of it. So again, like I said, we're not sure if it was the perks or the power or what it was, but somewhere along the line, they just disappeared as these people who just were bankers and were political science majors, like writing the civil services exams and hoping to God they get through. And they were just like, I put it out there. The universe has made me.
Yeah.
It has now made me IFS.
Yeah, Zoya Khan is actually, to be honest, when you read through like all of the things that she did, she clearly is a smart cookie, I guess. But let's sort of start backwards with this, right? On the day that Zoya and her husband were arrested. So they were arrested on the night of 4th April 2019. Senior Superintendent of Police, that's SSP, Vaibhav Krishna of the Gautam Budh Nagar Police Station. conducted a raid on their 3 BHK apartment in a society in Noida. He was assisted by the Bisrak police station in Greater Noida, under whose jurisdiction this apartment society falls, basically. So the raid was conducted along with a team from the crime branch as well. And they arrested her, both Zoya and her husband, on that night. And they uncovered a series of documents that kind of helped the police to put together what was going on. And they found like a lot of forged documents, right? So there was an ID card, which is issued by the United Nations Security Council in quotes, of course.
Ooh.
It had a picture of Zoya and listed her designation as nuclear police officer. What? Whatever that is.
Oh,
supposed
actually,
to be.
you know what? I think that's supposed to say nuclear policy officer.
Oh, that actually makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's what that was. It was nuclear policy officer. I remember looking at the card and I think that's what that said. That card was not card, her ID card essentially. That was really interesting. Let's get into that a little later. That ID card is ridiculous.
So the documents that they got was this ID card, a diplomatic identity card by the United States Security Department, which had the words Mission Afghanistan in Washington written on it. I don't know, does this indicate that she was on a diplomatic mission to Afghanistan through US? Why do you have it in India then?
What? So she was outsourced as a foreign officer from India to the
Yes.
US.
To go to Afghanistan.
Okay.
Yeah.
To go to Afghanistan on a special diplomatic mission.
Correct. Exactly.
Okay.
That's what the UN does.
Great.
And they also found her driving license, which was verified by the Meerut RTO. And I feel like this is the only original thing about her.
It was verified.
Yeah.
The Meerut RTO verified it.
They were like, yeah, this woman took the test here only.
That's nice. But I'm glad at least she had one ID. I mean, if she decided that she wanted to
Sure.
I don't know, go to a bar or whatever it is, man. Should at least show them this ID instead of nuclear policy officer.
Nuclear police officer, excuse you.
I'm so sorry. But they seized a bunch of stuff also, right? I think they had a bunch of freebies sitting in the house.
They did. They had 2 luxury cars, a Mahindra SUV that had like a blue beacon on it, and a Mercedes which had the UN logo embossed on it. It's just,
1 second. I need a second.
they took,
It just had the...
yeah, they took a random Mercedes, put the logo. I'm just thinking, how would they have gone to that car dealer, like whatever, this guy, and be like, UN logo print karwa do. He's like,
Listen, you know what? I have seen cars saying like, I love you, Kavya, on the back. Okay, so it's only fair that this can happen.
I suppose. My favorite one is, if you are bad, I am dead.
Hey, shut up. Just yuck. Move on.
So if someone is printing that, then they can definitely print the UN logo.
Of course. I don't think they really care about that.
No.
But yes, I think they found a bunch of other stuff.
They found 2 walkie-talkies,
phones.
4 laptops, 4 mobile phones, and something that looked like a handgun, but it was actually just a lighter shaped like a handgun. So yeah, they found a bunch of shit.
That's so dumb. That's right. But the thing is, so right after this is when they were arrested. So we learned a lot about the story after they were arrested, right? So right after the arrest, the police learned a lot about the couple, even like just right after, like mostly by interrogating neighbors and speaking with them and stuff like that. So what we know so far, this is partly from neighbor testimony, partly from testimony from the police officers that they terrorized in other cities, and of course what like the actual investigation that the police officer did before he arrested them. So Zoya Khan, as of 2017, had been pretending to be a civil services officer. There is no doubt about that. But what she did was she created these fake IDs, mostly to get freebies from the government. So she used them to call up police houses and essentially say, "Give me a car, give me a house, give me security," like insane high-level security, the kind that diplomats get, right? And also little perks along the way, like free transport, domestic help and stuff like that. So it was uncovered that she and her husband had moved to the apartment society where they were arrested about 4 months before the arrest. But she had been getting these freebies for a long time. It's just that at that time she was requesting for them from the Noida police. But before that she was, in Meerut, in Gurgaon. She was in a lot of other cities where she was just actively fleecing them for this. And I think this is a great time now to talk about the ID card.
Oh God.
Which I really want to tell you, it's a work of art because it's
seriously.
so obvious in its fakeness that I can't even describe it. We'll put a picture up of this, maybe like on our social media or something, because it's just so beautiful. But this is really what it says. It says United Nations Organization Security Council, this bulky ass name right on top with the logo.
It doesn't even fit properly.
It doesn't fit. It's just sort of like, I refuse to believe that the UN couldn't hire a designer who could fit it all into one card. Her name is on there. It says Zoya Khan. Yes, of course, her profile says Nuclear Policy Officer. That's right. She is stationed in Washington, D.C. For some reason, her date of birth is on it. I don't know why. There is both an ID card number and an employee number.
Why?
And there's a photo of her. I don't know. Now, I was like, hey, listen, I want to see how close this is to the real ID card that the UN issues, right? So I just like looked it up because what else do I have to do on a Saturday evening nowadays?
Of
So
course.
there are different kinds of IDs that are issued for diplomats, for UN staff, and for the media. Now, diplomats and delegates will have to apply through their country's permanent mission to the UN. And no card is issued like chumma blanket. They're not like, take one card, you can come to our office whenever, come to our pantry, take our conflicts. They're not like that, okay? It's only for certain events or certain debates, and people don't just get to go like in a group because they feel like it. You're also not allowed to have a uniform on or anything that looks like formal wear. You're supposed to dress like in absolutely casual sort of attire. And what it usually says is United Nations on top, and then the agency name will be listed below. It will never say you're an employee because no diplomat can be an employee for the UN. They are a delegate sent to the UN representing the country, right? And of course, there will be an issuance date and an expiry date. There always will be these things. So none of these are there on this card.
Well, duh.
But having said that, I know this because I did the research.
So are you planning to...
An officer sitting out of the Meerut police station. What? No, I'm saying an officer sitting out of the...
I was going to say, are you planning to scam us all?
No, I mean, well, no. But like if an officer sitting out of the Meerut police station would not know this, right? For him, he looks at this. There's a woman who turns up here with a ton of authority and she's like, hey, I want this and I want it now. And he's likely never been bossed around like that before,
True.
by a woman with so much authority. And he would just say, okay, here, take your car.
Yeah, it actually... Like it came out that Zoya and her husband were really demanding in general. They pulled a scam like in 6 districts across Delhi, UP and Haryana. So these districts were Meerut, Ghaziabad, Noida, Gurgaon, Aligarh and Moradabad. So she'd always call the local police station and demand that they send over security immediately. And the police also tell us that she used to make calls to senior police officers posing as Anil Sharma, a personal assistant to the Joint Foreign Secretary. And how she did this was she used a voice converter app on her phone to convert her voice into a male one. That's pretty much it. That's all it takes. And when she was with the security, she insisted that, police personnel and all the other officers should salute her. If anyone asks any questions, she just like flash one of her fake IDs and just like boss the officers around.
I get it, dude. I understand that entitlement because I also want it. I want to feel that level of that sense of confidence that comes with knowing that you're going to like you know what? Like I've seen ton of heist movies, okay? Like I've seen all of the Oceans 11s through 12s through 13s. I've seen a ton of these and I don't really see women sitting up and going like, yeah, I can do this. And I very rarely see that recreated in real life. So it sucks that she did this, sure. I mean, but I get it.
She's smart.
I'm really proud of the entitlement.
She was conniving.
She was conniving.
She really intricately put together all of these things, all of these like fake IDs, gave herself a UN domain name, email address. She used to use this to drop emails on senior officials, like demanding government benefits and security.
Nice.
Okay.
I mean, terrible. I didn't mean to say nice.
So first off, she created a fake email ID for herself, which was securitychief@unitednationssecuritycouncil.org.
Security chief.
Yes.
We don't even have a permanent position in the Security Council yet as a country, but she is the
true.
security chief of the Security Council. Of course.
So She also went ahead and bought the domain name, which is United Nations Security Council.org on a domain registration website.
Yeah, I checked this out. Okay.
Like, otherwise this won't work.
I know I checked this out. I really checked this out because the moment I saw it, I was like, you know what? So like, let's just look at other websites. Okay. Like there are websites like, the companies like Microsoft and Facebook and stuff like that acquire other domain names that they might not necessarily use. But is very similar to their name, right?
Right.
I mean, I'm just assuming here, but Facebook would have likely also bought Bookface for all we know. But they do that because
Or the Facebook.
the Facebook or like Facebook with triple O's, in case somebody made a mistake. So it'll go back to like how Google has purchased everything that says G, how many number of O's.
Right.
So
Got it.
because it'll all redirect back to Google. And the whole point of that is to make sure your brand remains really secure. Now, the United Nations does not care about that. So they did not make an effort to purchase United Nations Security Council.org as a domain registration name. Also, it's quite a mouthful.
Yeah, it is.
Because the actual UN domain name is just un.org.
Oh no.
There is nothing else to it. It's so simple. But I checked this for this domain name, okay? I'm not clear when it was registered, but whoever registered it, their registration expires only on 19 September 2021. So Zoya Khan still owns that domain address, like till date. So you know what? If she's out on bail today, I don't know. Maybe she's still using it.
She could do this again?
She could, till September 2021, unless she wants to, extend her registration. But I thought, okay, you know what? Let me thwart this. And I tried purchasing the domain name for the heck of it.
Are you
Okay.
serious?
Yeah, but the asking price was like 10K. And I was like,
Okay. No.
that's too far for a joke. That's just
It
too
is.
much. Yeah.
But I guess if someone who's listening to this podcast has 10,000 rupees to throw, you know what to buy on 19 September 2021. But yeah, so the police eventually traced this domain name back to her because she made the payment through a net banking account. They also found a bunch of like these emails in her Outlook app on her phone. So they figured it out.
Oh, okay, that seems about right. In her 4 phones. The 4 phones
Yeah,
just
in her
had
4
a
phones.
bunch of emails going out saying, hey, where's my security, guys? That's going to be it.
Bhel puri lao.
That's awful. Now, you might all be wondering, what about all this stuff is really a crime? Because it just sounds like a really fun life to have so far. So what about this got her arrested? Now, the answer to that is all of what she did was a crime. Now, Zoya was booked under multiple sections under the Indian Penal Code and the Information Technology Act. So all of these involved cheating and cheating by impersonation, cheating to induce the delivery of certain property. And the punishment for all of these is a maximum of 3 years in jail and a fine for each of these instances. And when I say each instance, I mean each time that she had a civil servant's benefit that was given to her, that's one instant. So every time she got a car, or like every time she was just told,
Bhel puri.
I don't know, got her bail puri. Every time one of these instances happened, she effectively she's committing the act of cheating and cheating by impersonation. She was also booked for forgery of a valuable security. Yes. And also for using a forged document as a genuine one. The punishment here extends to 7 years and a fine. So you're already looking at multiple years worth of potential jail time for her, right? And also this was a very textbook case of cheating. Because if you go to the IPC and you check that section and you look for the act of cheating, the first example is literally this. I'll read out there's an illustration in the IPC usually saying what would constitute as this act and what would not constitute as this act. So this is the example for cheating under the IPC. A person A, by falsely pretending to be in the civil service, intentionally deceives person Z and thus dishonestly induces person Z to let him have credit goods for which he does not mean to pay. Person A cheats.
Wow.
Like it is this is an example quite literally.
Maybe she saw this and she was like, maybe I should do this.
It could be that. I mean, that's genuinely upsetting if she went back and she looked at cheating specifically and she said, this is the one I want to do.
Yeah.
And then she did it. But the thing is, I'm not sure if she was booked under this because this was not called out by the police officers. No, not the civil services bit. I mean, not cheating specifically. But there is also provision in the Indian Penal Code for impersonation of a public servant. So that comes with 2 years of imprisonment and a fine as well. But I didn't see any specific mention of her being booked under that. It's possible that prosecutors might pick that up later. That was not something that was very clear. There's one more. Wait, we're not done.
Oh, okay.
Under the Information Technology Act, there is a provision for impersonation using a computer resource. So that's another 3 years.
Wow.
So, yeah.
She's going to jail for a long, long time.
Yeah, she really is. I mean, should she?
What?
I mean, okay, let's just really look at this. From a purely entertainment value, I had a great time listening to this story. Many assets were recovered. I must say that. They also managed to figure out where her properties are and, I'm sure they recovered that as well. So really, it's a victimless crime.
No. Excuse you. That's my taxpayer money. Okay. Okay. Granted, I paid like 2,000 rupees in tax, maybe. But still, it is my money, which should have gone into making roads or something, not freaking getting her bhel puri.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll recover the property now, right? I mean, sure, it'll get confiscated. It'll be evidence for a really long time. So there's all of those sorts of things. But if you recover what effective... Okay. Just no. You're not debating this.
Just no, man. I'm sorry. You cannot cheat the system. Take my money and then be like, hey, it's a victimless crime. Yeah, shut up.
I don't know.
Go to jail. Sit there and think about what you did.
Fine. While I sit there and think about what we did, let's take a really quick break. And we'll just come back to you guys. I think we've covered quite a bit in the last few minutes. But let's come back and talk about how she got caught. So we'll see you after the break.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Would like to thank the sponsors on the network this week, Cred, Siet, and Global Victoria. Thank you so much for making this possible. On Cyrus Says, Cyrus is joined by the hilarious and extremely charming illusionist and therapist Suhani Shah. They talk about different aspects of magic like sleight of hand, mind reading, mentalism, and more. The Habit Coach completed 500 episodes, 500, and Ashton has a special message for us on the occasion. Do check that out. We had Lekini Desai, founder of the India Ethnic Company, talk to Varun Digarala about their story and the Hatke marketing idea that made them popular. On Naan Curry, Sadaf and Archit celebrated World Chocolate Day. They took us through the origins, history, economics of chocolate, and shared their memories. On Tere Mere Raste, Keshav Chaturvedi shares an interesting story from Leh. Check out an updated version of the Traveling Professor's Diary. It's now rechristened as Smarter with Sid. Same old brain filled with new stories and insights. This time, listen to know why you should keep things simple. And finally, check out Global Victoria Tech Talks. This one is in partnership with Global Victoria, the trade arm of the Government of Victoria and Australia. The edtech and gaming industries are booming in Victoria, Australia, and this series is meant to showcase that. And with that, let's get you back to your show.
All right, welcome back after those commercials or awkward silence or I don't know, whichever one it was, but welcome back. We're talking about Zoya Khan, who impersonated an IFS officer for 2 years. And now we're going to talk about the juicy bit. You might be asking at this point, how did the police really figure it out? Like, how did they figure out what was happening? So remember how we mentioned earlier that Zoya liked to boss people around and the police personnel that were assigned to her especially? So she pulled something similar on an officer in Noida. Okay. So on March 23rd, Zoya called the Gautam Budh Nagar police station in Noida. She had already called the VIP cell and the traffic office of Gautam Budh Nagar for police escort facilities. At this point of time, Senior Superintendent of Police, which is SSP Vaibhav Krishna, picked up the phone, unluckily for her. So this is the guy who arrested her eventually. So he picks up the phone and Zoya yells at him for delaying police escorts. Now, SSP Krishna is not an idiot. And he was also very quick to anger. So he was just like, who is this lady? I just picked up the phone. Why did I get yelled at? So instead of giving her the security detail, he was like, no, I will go investigate your background. And that's when shit hit the fan, because the first thing that SSP Krishna came across was the fake UN Security Council ID card. And then he knew
Ouch.
something was off. So he looked into it, and then he found her email and then thought to himself, why does the UN have such a huge domain name? Which I think is a valid question to ask. He then looked up the domain name on GoDaddy, which is the domain registration website. And then he found that it was
Right.
registered in Zoya's name, and she was busted.
Yeah. Okay, man. This just happened because he was pissed off.
Yeah.
That's literally it. That was so stupid.
You imagine like you're going into work and you're already stressed out about things, and you pick up the phone, like it's ringing, and someone's like, la, 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 where is my security? And you're like, no, that's it. I am going to find out what you have done, and I will make sure you get caught. That's what he went through.
It really makes you wonder what kind of tone she had, or what he already knew about her, that he sort of like, I'm wondering if he always suspected this about her, or maybe he had spoken to the police officers in some other districts, like it's not like difficult for police officers to speak to each other. I'm sure this is their water cooler gossip, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure there should be something there that must have triggered this, because I mean, if it's purely just that he was pissed off at her, sure, that makes for a great story, because that would be a really fun movie to watch. But if he had been hearing about this for a while and he was just like, she said her name was Zoya Khan, she was an IFS, and she's been doing this quite a bit in a lot of places. All places around Delhi, it's not like it was particularly out of that region either. So maybe he really put a lot of things together really well. It's
Maybe.
possible that could have happened.
Maybe.
Yeah, and like the thing is, we spoke earlier. I mean, like we know how she got busted and all the loot that like they also found with her. But like one thing that was really bothering me, and I actually don't have an answer for this. I don't know if you come across this when you were reading stuff up about her. But yes, she managed to get a bunch of perks. She managed to get like a car and even like a house and all of those things. But where was her cash? Like, how did she actually make money? Because you still need to spend money on a daily basis.
That's
Like-
true. I'm not sure. I mean, she did have those 2 cars. Maybe she was like part-time Uber driver.
Yes,
No,
that seems.
I
It's my fault. It's my fault for expecting a serious answer. That's on me. I'm really sorry. But did you come across anything about this?
No, actually, I didn't. I like all of the news reports, everything that I read through. There was no information about how she managed to scam people and get money out of this. I don't think there was any
Right.
mention of any like money either. They talked about like the assets and stuff like that, but there was no mention of any money. So I have no idea how she would have.
I'm sorry. I've spoken to some criminal lawyers that I know in Delhi, and I asked if we could because it's a very recent case. I was like, can we probably get some documentation from the Gautam Budh police station? Of course, we researched this in the last few months. So with COVID and everything, it's really difficult to procure a lot of the stuff. It's all physical copies, like it's just papers written down and stuff like that. I definitely couldn't find any FIRs that were filed online. I don't even know if an FIR even if an FIR has been filed, has a charge sheet been filed? Has this gone to court yet? I genuinely don't know. Did they uncover another name of hers, which is the name that they're using in court? Maybe that's what the case is under that name. I genuinely actually don't know. And this is something I do want to look into a lot more in detail once sort of things open up, and maybe I can go down to Delhi and look this up or something. That'd be really fun, because I would love to know what else happened with this. Because I don't know what happened. I just genuinely don't. I ideally would like to really sort of, tie off all these open threads by saying this is what happened to her.
Loose ends?
Loose ends, yes. This is what happened to her. Like, she went to jail for this, or she didn't go to jail. She got acquitted. Something. I wanted something concrete to end this. But you know what, Nisha? That's the thing about life. You don't always get closure.
Okay. Wow. I was not expecting this to go there. But I think maybe it's not about whether she got acquitted or not. I think it's the journey and the friendships that we made along the way.
Aww, that's true. This is really wholesome. Anyway, we don't know where this went. We just really tried to sidetrack with this. But if we do find out, I think we should be able to at some point once like the lockdowns lift and stuff like that. We were recording all of this like in COVID times. Whenever we get a chance to, we're very happy to sort of revisit this episode with this information. That'll be really fun, actually. Yeah.
We'll post an update when we can.
Yes, we will. But now we're at the end of our episode, and you know what that means. Yay! So let's go for it, Nisha. Yes, go for it.
Okay, here we go.
Burning that midnight lamp on the civil services exam. The perks and power of a lifetime slipping through my hand. But if you got the right attitude, nothing can hold you back. Just buy yourself a domain name and get a voice controller app. Vokanti, Zoya Khan, IFS, Vokanti. Tax money means nothing to me when the police give me company. 'Cause that angry SSB, he ruined my brilliant scheme. Vokanti, Zoya Khan, IFS, Vokanti.
Hey, Nisha, that song was great. But we really need to talk about your obsession with the phrase Vokanti. We really need to talk about that.
Dude, it's so clever, man. It's Vokanti. Get it? It's a question and an answer. It's amazing.
Yeah.
How are you not obsessed with it?
Yeah, it's great wordplay, but like, oh no, Nisha, look at the time. I can see like our producers are saying we need to cut this. They're also saying your consistent explanation of the headline may need to be removed. When we do that, we'll be left only 6 minutes of this podcast.
Oh, fine. I'll rant about it on Instagram.
Oh, that's good. That's good. But of course, that brings us to the end of this very light, very fluffy episode. It's quite a nice breather to have. And we hope to fill these sorts of episodes in so, we can take a break from the really heavy stuff. But thank you for joining us this week. As usual, you can find all of our sources in our Substack. You can find that in the description for this episode.
And don't forget to check out my rant on the Vokanti headline on Instagram. You'll find our handle in the description.
And we will see you on the next episode of this podcast that we call Misconduct. See you guys.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Zarina Poonawalla, host of the Empowering Series podcast on the IVM network. I happen to be a peak performance coach and leadership coach by profession, and I'm here to share with you productivity tools, life-altering techniques, and real-life hacks to help you achieve your maximum potential in everything you do, your relationships, professions, careers. So tune in every Monday to unleash your inner power. Be safe, be well, be empowered.
We live in an age of disruption, of immense change in every aspect of work, life, and business. But is the old way of doing things truly dead? And are we ever going to stop saying the new normal? Join me, Varun Dugirala, on Advertising is Dead every Tuesday as I talk to entrepreneurs, leaders, creators, and change makers from across business, media, marketing, and beyond to dig a little deeper into how we got here, what we're doing now, and where we're headed. You can catch all the episodes of Advertising is Dead on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcast from.